Detroit is the greatest! Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A magnificent goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Welcome to another edition of the Motor City Sports Rant on the DSP, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I am Jason Jarvie. Sitting across from me is not Vinny Stubbs. He is out. He's working. He's making some cashola. But across from me, I do have the one and only. You hear him at least 3 or 4 times a week on these on this network. And that's John Macaroon, the Doc. Doc, how are you tonight?
Had a great Monday evening. Looking forward to having a chat about the weekend that was in Detroit sports and definitely talking about the Lions. I think this is my first crack. I heard the Hindsight 20 podcast earlier today. Interesting thoughts from our newest host, Jerry Mallory, regarding the Lions' future. And I'm looking forward to talking with you about the victory versus Oakland. We beat Raider Nation.
It was a crazy weekend. Not only for the Lions, but also, obviously, the biggest game of the weekend was Michigan State, Ohio State.
Woo!
And we'll get into that because, and it's going to be just a gigantic slap fest because we're both gigantic Sparty fans. We don't have Vinny here to tear us down and to
Why?
I know he's not going to be here. I fully expect John to play that drop a couple times, but that's all we're going to get. You're not going to hear him saying, I want to see Harbaugh and I'm going to spank him on the butt. It's all going to be it's going to be D'Antonio talk. Spartan Nation, go green. But we have to talk about the Lions because ever since Martha Firestone Ford went down from, the Batcave and let go of Tom Lawand and Martin Mayhew, our Detroit Lions are 2-0. Yes. Woo. 2-0. That's something to build on, right?
And consistently scoring 18 points a game. So now we know that, the offense is looking a little bit better. Now some people are saying, hell, I actually heard phone calls on the radio, actually on your station, that people said, well, maybe they shouldn't have fired Mayhew. Maybe this was all Lombardi's fault. And just by brooming him out, everything could be changed.
See, that's the fear, is that we need to see change and that we're not going to see this. I know earlier in the season we were talking about the Lions scoring at 25 points or more. I was like, dude, they're going to do that. And even though they've won these past 2 weeks, they're not scoring a ton. It seems it's kind of, they get down to the red zone and they just kind of poop the bed. They don't have Joik Bell, aside from that one run yesterday where he was able to fight for 3 yards. And, I was really glad he was able to do that. But, we can't do anything in the red zone.
No, they're not going to Calvin enough. Calvin's not making as many plays, but he makes just enough to help this offense out. And you can see that the offensive line is playing a little bit better. Stafford feels like he's a little bit more comfortable. And it just looks like the Lions are playing, it's really fun that we got a chance to beat Green Bay in Green Bay, so that was good. Oakland came in, and they weren't world beaters, so you kind of expected that the Lions had a chance, and if they didn't make mistakes, if they just played within themselves, that they did have a chance. And what's happened is they've played a little bit better on defense. They've stepped it up and not been as bad on offense. And with that combination, the NFL is kind of mediocre. And so you have teams that are going to come in like Philadelphia, like the Raiders, and you have to take advantage, and they have. But, I'm not getting all excited because we won 2 games in a row. The record still stands at 3 wins and 7 losses. So for me personally, I'm enjoying watching the Knights football. They're winning these games, but I'm not all that excited.
I think what's surprising is that they're doing it by not scoring a ton. And maybe, you're right. Maybe it is just Jim Bob Cooter and you have that, or Jim Bob Cooter who's now running the offense. And it's so simple that they're just not making mistakes. And I think that's what you saw Stafford. He didn't really have any mistakes the week before. And I think did he have any interceptions in the Green Bay game? I thought he had one, but it might have been a tip ball. So they're minimizing mistakes, which, that's kind of how Michigan State is doing it. Really, they're when they go up against good teams, they just play sound fundamental football. And I know I've heard some coach said that if at the end of every possession you're either getting a touchdown or kicking the ball, you're probably going to win the game because you're not giving the ball away. So, I don't see what this Lions team is. It's frustrating.
So you still feel like the Lions team still gives you fits and is a conundrum? I mean, you know what they are. They're a subpar team that can, if they play well, that can beat these teams. Now, what was disappointing earlier in the year when these games really, really mattered and you played teams like Kansas City and Denver and San Diego is you played well, but you weren't able to hold leads and you made key mistakes. So what the Lions have shored up is, with these changes, is they're playing a little bit more solidly on defense. The run defense really helped out. And Oakland doesn't feature a whole heck of a lot. I mean, Carr is a quarterback that's young and up and coming, but he's not there yet. And Slade did just enough on Cooper. Cooper was held to very low stats, and I had him on my fantasy team, so it pissed me off because I think he threw up a big fat 0. And, with that, the defense played very well. The offense is not making mistakes, and they were able to run the football a little bit better. Now, they weren't running it for over 150 yards, but just enough to keep the time of possession, to, keep drives going, and just enough to not tire out the defense. And the Lions played a good game. You go out there, you play a team like Oakland, you have to get that win, and they did.
What's frustrating, though, is that I just don't see where it's coming from. You can't point to anything and say, this is the difference. The defense, they've held people to 16. They've held good offenses to, they've held them in check. These last 2 weeks, everybody expected, Aaron Rodgers to go off and just have an explosion game. And going into this week, I think we also thought Derek Carr going up against the Lions secondary with Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, that he was just going to have a field day. And where is this coming from? It doesn't make sense. I mean, are these coaches just like, whatever, we're just going to take this day off?
Well, I want to ask you this. A lot of people after the game were talking like, okay, there's kind of now a shift in the fans. You got the fans that are cheering game in, game out, and are wanting the Lions to win. And then you got another group of people who are like, each and every victory with the Lions is another sign that potentially Sheldon White will get the job. Jim Caldwell is going to stay. So a lot of people, since Wood was named president, are kind of going back on all that love. Remember how we celebrated when the news came out that Mayhew and Lewan were fired? We thought, oh, it's a new day. We thought that the Lions were going to make all these changes. But now, in typical Lions fashion, as most would say, now they might win some games and Sheldon White might stay. There's a chance Caldwell will stay if they win 2 to 3 more games. So where do you stand? Do you care, week in, week out that they win these games? Or are you getting a little bit fearful that if the winning continues, then the management's going to stay and the changes that we all want may not happen?
I'm never going to root for them to lose games, but and if they do, let's just say the crazy things happen. I'm glad Vinny isn't here because he would most likely stop me at this point. Let's say the Lions win out. They go 9-7.
Okay.
That almost guarantees Caldwell, Sheldon White, everybody's back. I mean, wouldn't you say? If they win out, everybody's back, right?
I would say that would be a huge accomplishment. It's not likely, but that would definitely be a nice resume booster for Sheldon White in the interview. But he just isn't the best candidate. I don't know how. Even if he goes 9-7, even if they do that, I don't know what he's done. It would have to
turn this team around from 1-7 to go 9-7.
It's not
and
Sheldon White.
Possibly go into the playoffs.
It's not Sheldon White. You'd have to give higher marks to Jim Caldwell and the new coaching staff. But what's a big, huge demerit is who put the offensive line coach in place? Who hired Lombardi? It was Caldwell. So that's a big knock in that potentially you didn't have the best coaches running the team because what Lombardi did, what the former line coaches were doing was a complete disaster. Now, this offensive line isn't that bad the way they were playing. So with the new schemes and the new way that they've been playing these last couple games, it leads you to believe that whoever was putting the coaches in place wasn't really doing a good job, and that was Caldwell. But if they go 9-7, it would be what the Fords would do based on how they think they would keep them.
So my question now is that what is it going to take then to actually get change in this organization? I mean, if they win, they have 6 games left. If they go 3-3 and they finish 6-10, is that enough for some of that staff to kind of stick around? I mean, I think Sheldon White probably is gone at that point. He probably gets looked at, but I think there's better people out there. But I fully believe that this entire coaching staff has to go. There's no Terrell Austin. There's no Jim Bob Cooter. Everybody should be gone. So, I mean, at what point is these coaches actually saving their jobs?
Oh, today at his press conference, Caldwell got a little bit snippy with the media because after each and every game, all they're really asking him about is his job security. And he came out and said, you guys really focus on this quite a bit. And I don't know why. I'm just coming to work. And he's taking the attitude that, hey, until they tell me to leave, I'm going to keep doing it. Now, Caldwell is a leader of men. And, the question you'd ask is how much credit do you give him for that 11-win season? How much of it was his fault versus, Martin Mayhew, who put these players in place? Caldwell has a say in terms of who's on the roster, and Eric Ebron making mistakes is still a big issue. But what's it going to take for the Lions to make big changes? I don't know, because, the first big changes that we saw was after they went 0-16. So are they going to broom out Sheldon White despite, what he may or may not do the rest of the way? Are they going to broom out Jim Caldwell? Nobody really knows, because Martha Ford has lost my trust a little bit when she named a guy that she knew personally to be the president. And then when she's going to be involved in the search committee with her daughters, we don't know what their thoughts are. We don't know what they're thinking. We don't know what that committee with Wood, Mrs. Ford, and her children are going to do. They may be loyal. They may continue to, heed the nervousness of the fans and make big changes. So I don't know, but I'm not as confident as 2 weeks ago that everything's going to change. They may keep White. They may keep one of the two. The Lions may hire a general manager and tell him you have to keep Caldwell for another year. They may do that to a general manager. You don't know. With this organization, you would think you would do things the way you're supposed to, but they haven't.
Because looking at the remaining schedule, we do have a pretty favorable schedule. So going up, we have the Eagles on Thanksgiving Day. It's a short week. The Eagles are banged up.
Tampa Bay worked them, and Sanchez potentially could throw 3 to 4 picks at Ford Field.
So you have the Eagles. Let's say
Green Bay is going to be a loss. Let's put it a logistical loss. Now, they could play well. They could step it up like they did last year versus Green Bay at home. But let's just say straightforward, I give that one a loss.
So you say it's a loss, but then it's a primetime game. It's Thursday night. I mean, if he does win, that's another booster for Jim Caldwell and that staff. Rams, I think it's going to be a
tough game.
It's a winnable game, but I think the Rams are really good. The Saints, it's another primetime game. It's they could beat the Saints because their defense is horrible. And then you close up the season with the 49ers and the Bears. It's completely possible that they could go 4-2 to end the season. Finish up 7-9, which isn't horrible. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised they broom out Sheldon White and they bring in new GM in and say, hey, you have to give Caldwell another year, and we're gonna have to live with it. That's my biggest fear, is that we're gonna have to live with another year of not knowing.
But see, here's the part that's a little bit tough to look at. If you're Sheldon White, you came in after the draft. You came in now. You've learned under Martin Mayhew, but we don't know exactly what Sheldon White's role was exactly working with Martin Mayhew. Most people would say
Sheldon White has been here since before Matt Millen.
He's been here a long time. But when you say that, well, we should broom aside Sheldon White, I'm starting to look at then, you don't believe that potentially if you give somebody the spotlight, that maybe he could step up? When you got guys that are working a little bit in the background and then you shine the light on him and say, hey, you're the guy, he might have been a person that might have said no to Ebron. He might have been behind the scenes, giving grades and giving different evaluations. So what I would say is, I know everybody wants change to happen. I kind of want to see how Sheldon White would put together one draft, just one, to see 6-7 picks that he puts together and see what they do with this staff. So I would say, my heart wants them to broom out everybody, but you have to also take into account what the Fords do. So what they may do is just say, he's still the interim guy. He's still the guy here. He may not be named the full GM, but if you're Sheldon White, what have you done to prove yourself? Nothing. He all he does is basically flick on the lights and sign people off the streets. He doesn't do nothing. He hasn't done anything to show you whether he's a good general manager or bad, because one of the biggest signs is drafting players and signing free agents. So he hasn't done it. So, I would want to see what a roster that he put together look like, but, based on their moves, I think that Martha Ford I'm going to hope and put out there in the atmosphere that she hears the fans and she brooms out everybody and brings in somebody who's a football guy that can help this team win. That's all we can hope for. But more and more as we talk, I'm starting to feel like the Lions are going to bring back everybody, bring back the whole band.
And here's what I think the bottom line is for that is, like you're saying, I wouldn't be completely upset if they do give Sheldon White a chance. And, if they finish out the season respectably, they give Sheldon White a chance. The issue is, if you keep Sheldon White and everybody, that's another year of, I don't have faith in what you're doing. I'm just like, it's a toss up. And if you fail, then it's like, you should have changed. And that's what it's going to be. If they do give Sheldon White and Caldwell and Jim Bob Cooter and Tara Lawson another chance next year at this same point, if they're at the same record, we're going to be like, why the hell didn't they make the right move?
Yeah,
and
of course.
I think the reason why I'd rather see them just broom everybody out is because I wouldn't have as high of expectations, because next year I know that there's going to be growing pains with a brand new GM, new coaching staff. There's going to be a transition period, and that would at least explain why they're not doing so good. So I think that's where fans are coming from, because we know what we have right now. We know we have Matt Stafford. We have an aging Calvin Johnson. We have Jim Caldwell, who kind of improbably took us to the playoffs in the first year and now kind of looks lost in his second year. And he could turn it around in the third year. You never know. I think they always say the coaches need at least 3 years to kind of get their system and get the guys that they need in here. But
now all I can do is kind of look to a team that's one of the remaining undefeated teams. Look at Carolina. Ron Rivera had some down seasons, and a lot of people were saying that, he should go, that he's not a good coach, that he's failed at other places, that this guy should be gone. And look what he's done with, Cam Newton and young receiving core and a young defensive line and an offensive line that's kind of now gelled together. They're undefeated, and they're hurting people. So the biggest problem, though, with evaluating Caldwell is his reputation is one of the worst in-game managers in the National Football League. So he's got a really bad reputation in-game in terms of how he calls the game and how he looks at things. And we've seen it now with the Lions. But you have to give him credit.
Look at a team like Carolina, though. That's a team that is built the right way. They don't have a superstar wide receiver. They haven't been drafting a running back after running back and trying to just put weapons around Cam Newton. They have a stellar defense. They have Pro Bowlers, probably at all the lines of defense. They had Luke Kuechly. They got Josh Norman, who's really come into his own this season. But
now you could say this, though. You never know if Caldwell wanted to make moves that maybe Martin Mayhew just finalized and said no. You don't know the inner workings, because look, Adrian Waddle was a healthy scratch. You put in a new guy, and you would think that maybe if Caldwell got a different batch of players that actually had a little bit more talent, and next year's schedule does favor the Lions, because it's not going to be like this year. When the schedule came out, everyone's like, oh, damn, this is going to be a bad year. But next year, if the schedule is favorable, you do have more opportunities to get to 9 to 11 wins, because he's done it before. it's not likely, but you would think that he might have that chance. So I'm not saying keep Caldwell. I'm saying that stability in organizations sometimes works out, and it worked out for Carolina.
So I think we've convinced each other that the Lions are going to go with Sheldon White, and then we're going to have another year of Jim Caldwell, and we'll be back next year, and we'll watch it all the same. And I think we'll probably predict them to go 10-6
for entertaining purposes. Hey, his press conferences are great.
The biggest direction I got from Mrs. Ford.
He seems like, just in the early observations, he seems like he kind of has a stabilizing force right now and amidst all this chaos, because everybody's wondering, hey, your job's at stake. The head coach job potentially is at stake. Are the players going to quit? Everything kind of is stabilized since, the big moves were made. You broomed out first the coaches that were wrong. Then you broomed out the management. You never know that. You can't really say that Sheldon White would be a bad general manager. All everybody wants is basically, and I agree, is that if the Fords touch you and appoint you to do work for them, we don't want you. So that's what the fans are saying. But in essence, if you really take a step back and you give a guy a chance to see what he can do, I'd like to see what Sheldon White would do with one draft class. But it's not logical. It's not realistic. Everybody wants change, and if you do a national search for a general manager, he can't be the best. There are better candidates out there. So
we don't know that, though.
We do know that.
No, we don't.
Wolf and Quinn from Green Bay and New England are way better than anything we got. Hell,
they haven't been general managers.
Listen, I would say that the fourth in line in Green Bay is better than anything, any scout, anybody in player personnel for the Lions. The fourth person in line.
You don't know that. You by your logic, what you said, maybe Sheldon White, he didn't agree with anything that Martin Mayhew or Matt Millen did. Maybe he had maybe his brain is smarter than everybody else. Maybe he was the one, he wanted to say, hey, let's take Aaron Donald. Hey, let's take Odell Beckham Jr. Let's take Ray Maluga instead of coming back up and drafting Brandon Pettigrew.
If I was Sheldon White, I'd say I graded Slay A++. Look what he's doing the last 2 weeks. Shut down the wide receiver from Green Bay and Cooper, a young wide receiver who was averaging a lot of points coming into the game.
Hey, I wanted to draft Randall Cobb over Titus Young.
Maybe if I was Sheldon White, I'd just be like, I discovered Ziggy Ansah. just do whatever you can to get the job. But, I don't know. Maybe when you say broom him out, they may keep him with the organization and just not make him the general manager.
I don't think you can say, if they do bring Sheldon White back, and let's say they do a national search and they bring back Sheldon White.
Okay.
That's a bad
sign. That's a bad sign.
It does say something, though. What
would it say?
That there's something.
They're liars.
That there's something there.
Oh, maybe. Maybe that the Fords assess this guy to have talent, that he's the number one candidate. They can't. They would have a PR nightmare, because if they said they were going to do a national search, how do you bring out Sheldon White? How do you justify that without basically making yourself look stupid or basically lying to the fans?
So what if Bill Polian comes and he's our advisor and we do a national search and Bill Polian says, Sheldon White is your best candidate?
That's the spin you'd have to say. You'd have to say, Bill Polian told us highly to hire Sheldon White. That's what you'd have to say, and every answer would have to be that. We were advised by Bill Polian, who was on our staff, who we cut checks to. He told us and advised us, Sheldon White's the guy. Nobody would believe it. Nobody would support that. But, hey, the Fords have done other things that nobody supported before. But
you can't.
So what percentage chance do you see Sheldon White being named the general manager?
At this point, I think it's probably I might even go as far as a 60% chance that he comes back. Hey, I don't really
50,
want it.
I go 50 right now. 50%.
I would say I was thinking 50-50 at this point, but because of their recent success and looking at the schedule going down the road, if they finish out with more wins, than losses, then I think his chances go up, because I really don't think you can honestly tell me that every other candidate out there is better than Sheldon White, because they've never been a general manager. Elliot Wolf is 33 years old. He is 4 years older than me. I could make an argument that I'm as good as Elliot Wolf as a general manager, which I'm pretty sure I could do a better job than Martin Mayhew or Matt Millen, because...
You know what your biggest problem is?
What? You're a dick. I'm not a dick. I do hate that I'm flip-flopping, because I do want them to broom everybody out, I don't want the Lions to lose, but I see the writing on the wall. That's just it. I'm a Lions fan. I can see this stuff happening.
We all can see it happen. We all can see them winning the rest of their games, and Stafford shines, and everyone's like, oh, he's our guy again, and then they go with them next year. And in essence, it's all about the perspective that you want to view. If you want to support the Lions and you believe that this panel of Martha Ford, her kids, and Rod Wood can make the decision to bring in the best guy, then you have to go with whatever they decide. But, short of cleaning house, everybody from management to coaches, I think that's the populist opinion. Now, are they willing to go against that and really upset their fan base? Would the fan base revolt if he was named the general manager? I feel like the media would be a little bit more intense in scrutinizing them. I feel like the trust level with the fans would go away, and it would be a little bit more hostile with the organization. But what cures all that? Wins.
And
so
if
just
they
win,
come back
baby.
next year and they
win.
They start at 6-0. Everyone's going to be happy. Like, oh, Sheldon White, he's the smartest guy in the room.
Listen, what the Lions need more than anything else is just one playoff win. That would be like a Super Bowl win. Everybody would celebrate. You would probably get 2 or 3 more years of good faith. Only us hardcore guys who are watching and demanding excellence are really breaking down everything and looking at everything like this. Right now, the fans are just like so starved. Look how we celebrated when they won versus Green Bay. They celebrated like they won the Super Bowl.
I didn't celebrate.
You are super rational. I'm talking about everyone else. Our Twitter page blew up. Everyone's giddy. Everyone's celebrating. But in essence, the Lions have to set the goal to win the Super Bowl and start the course. The course starts now. Do the national search. Bring in the general manager that's going to bring you a consistent winning organization. That's what we'll take, and that's what I want. That's what's going to have to happen. They have to bring in. Listen, you can have winning seasons. Martin Mayhew had winning seasons. He got them 2 playoffs. He built 2 teams that got to the playoffs. But in essence, what we want is we want a New England. We want a Green Bay where they can change any parts and have a nice system and have a team that can go to the playoffs and win. That's what we want. And I don't believe that can be built with Sheldon White and Jim Caldwell. You can build a team that can win 9 games, 10 games, and have a year where they win 6 games. But I want to build a New England.
Why can't it be built that way? Bill Belichick has failed. He failed in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And then he got a second chance, and he fixed it in New England.
Okay, so you're saying that Jim Caldwell could be the guy that leads us to be a Super Bowl contending team year in, year out? I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
2 years. We've only given him 2 years. I think if we had I hate myself.
What's your stance, Jason? What's your final verdict? Don't talk yourself out of your opinion. You know what's right. You know you want to broom everybody out.
I want everybody gone.
Yes.
But they're probably not going to be. I think they're probably...
So you're trying to talk yourself into supporting the decision to keep Caldwell and White because of what I said?
I'm not supporting it, but I'm not going to... I'll accept it because I have to. Because I love football and I love the Lions. And I'm not going to...
It's the hardest team to talk about because we want them to win so bad, and we've seen every decision that they've made where they should have gone right, they went left. When they should have went left, they went right. And when they need to make key moves, they don't make them. So, and that's in essence what the big problem is that you can always say, what's been the constant ownership, but what's been really the constant is poor management at the top in terms of general managers, presidents, everybody in the scouting department. That's been the problem.
Poor players. You can't put this all on the coaching and management either. The players. Matt Stafford, that's really the main facts you can look at. Outside of Jim Caldwell making a couple bad coaching decisions, you can look at the players and you can see what they're doing. And that's where the fact is. Matt Stafford is a average quarterback. He has a lot of athletic ability, but he is a very average quarterback. Calvin Johnson is an aging receiver. That's a fact. And Golden Tate is probably our number 1 at the moment. That's a fact. Our O-line is, it has some bright spots. Laken Tomlinson, who's a first-round pick, I could make a move on him. He's garbage.
Mm-hmm. What the Lions are desperate need of, and we'll talk more about it after a quick break, what the Lions really need is some positive PR.
I'm done talking about the Lions. I don't want to talk about the Lions anymore.
You're all done talking about it?
I know we talked about it. I'm done talking about the Lions. We've already spent a half hour talking about them.
I think we could spend 5 hours trying to break down what the hell's going on with this
really
team.
could. We could talk,
They need some positive
5
PR.
full episodes. Yeah, they had a bad week last week with the whole
station thing.
The the whole censorship of them wanting to control the message on their flagship station, them hiring Rod Wood. The bottom line for me is I don't care who the coach is, who the general manager is. I just want them to win.
Consistently, yeah. You want them to win, and we want an identity, a strong identity, and you want a winning organization, and you want when you draft a guy number 10 and he gets the ball in his hands, he doesn't drop it, and he doesn't get scolded by his quarterback who hasn't done nothing.
Right,
how funny is that?
we don't hear PR issues. We don't hear about this censorship if the Lions are winning. That's all they got to do. Just win.
Just win,
and
baby.
That's my stance, is that just win. Just like D'Antonio, that's who we're going to talk about coming up.
I know you're excited,
next.
man. What a great victory.
So, yeah, when we come back, we're going to talk about Sparty and maybe a little college football playoff. And you are listening to the Motor City Sports Rant on Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc here for FanaticU.com, Detroit Sports official outfitter and the official outfitter of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Go visit FanaticU.com, a great online selection of gear supporting all the local teams, the Red Wings, the Pistons, the Lions, the Tigers, Michigan and Michigan State. If you're looking to start your Christmas shopping a little bit early, go visit FanaticU.com, and when you check out, use the promo code DSP, and when you use that promo code at checkout, you'll save 15% off your entire order. And our friends at Fanatic U have done so many nice things for us. They've given us gift cards to give away to our listeners, tons of free shirts, tons of free giveaways on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. And now for you, the listener, they've gone out and done another thing to help promote FanaticU.com. From now until December 31st, anybody at all that goes online at FanaticU.com and uses the promo code DSP, your email will be entered into a drawing. And at the beginning of the year, we're going to give away one $100 gift card to anybody that makes any purchase at all from any item at the online store. FanaticU.com, promo code DSP. You'll be entered to win a $100 gift card to start your new year. So support those who support us. Support our friends at FanaticU.com. Detroit Sports, official outfitter.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Let that play for a second, baby. What a beautiful
I'll turn
song.
that up. Victory for MSU. Fight! Win! Up with colors of furrow that went high.
What a great game. What a great game, huh? Another great memory for the Sparties.
That was a great Saturday. You know, I did my duty at the station, got to come home, watch the Michigan State game. Oh man, it was definitely a roller coaster though. You know, going into that game, I know last week we talked about it, and you thought Ohio State totally was going to have them.
It made it worse when the game started. You're like, Connor Cook's got the clipboard. He ain't looking like he's the starting quarterback. You're going to go with O'Connor and Terry? What? No chance. I gave him less than no chance. Are you kidding me?
But I think that game turned into an old-fashioned football game. It's 2 yards and a cloud of dust. And it was really ground and pound. The Spartans they came into that with a better gameplay. And I really think it came down to D'Antonio outcoached and he outsmarted Urban Meyer.
Oh my God!
He did, 100%.
He goes in there and obviously we were helped by Mother Nature because you could really only throw the ball when you're going in one direction of the field. But JT Barrett still should have been able to shred the Michigan State secondary. Instead, they played right into our hands because our front seven just was ready. They were ready for it. They knew JT Barrett could run. They knew Ezekiel Elliott. He's a Heisman Trophy candidate. They knew he was going to get the ball, and we just stuffed him at every single junction.
It was such an amazing game. And what Terry and O'Connor brought to the game that Connor Cook doesn't is the ability, if the Ohio State guys brought pressure, to kind of elude the pocket and make some runs. It was nice to see. Not too often, but they were able to kind of extend plays and get some yards that might have been broken plays with Connor Cook or sacks, and they were able to get positive yards. And I agree. I was texting a buddy of mine, and I was like, wow, this is really an old school, grounded out defensive battle. And when you look at this, the defensive stats for Michigan State and what Ohio State didn't do, Ohio State only got 5 first downs the entire game. The opening drive for the Lions, they got that many first downs their first drive of the game.
I agree with you on Tyler O'Connor. I don't agree with you as much about Damian Terry. And as much as I don't like to see people get hurt, when Damian Terry limped off the field,
you were a little excited.
I had a sigh of relief because I was tired of seeing D'Antonio switch between O'Connor and Terry, because Terry's in there. You know, it's just going to be a QB jet sweep to the left, a jet sweep to the right, or a run up the middle. And Tyler O'Connor, he did give you a little bit more mobility. I think Connor Cook can move around, but he also has a lot of faith in his arm. And it would have, I'd be interested to see what it would have been like if Connor Cook actually would have started that game. Because, I mean, O'Connor made a ton of plays with his feet, you know, just on third downs, running for first downs. It was amazing. And you take the only way that Ohio State scored was off of
our mistakes.
Yeah, our mistakes. We were shooting ourselves in the foot. You know, Terry gets he completely got blindsided. I don't know how he didn't see or feel that guy coming on him. He fumbles the ball. They only have to go about 30 yards, and it took them 10 plays to just, you know, get it down to the goal line. And then finally Ezekiel Elliott gets to, you know, pound it in. And then McGarrett Kings, again, he's the GOAT of the game. It would have been on him. And I know when I saw that punt, and I'm not sure if you felt the same way, when McGarrett Kings muffed that punt, I was like, this is the game. There was no real, other than that fumble, there was no, there haven't been like a mistake. And after that happened, I texted my brother immediately. I'm like, that's the game. It's over. This is bad. There's no, I really didn't feel that there was a way that we could have come back. Cause, you know, up until that point in this entire season, I mean, the Michigan State offense has struggled. And I really didn't think that they'd be able to. I thought it was going to be a lightning rod for Ohio State, that, you know, Michigan State would come back the next drive. They would go 3 and out, and then Ohio State would just be, something would have clicked, and it would have just made sense. But we came back, we drove, we got a touchdown on that next drive to tie it up. And
Jason, it's time. It's time for you to believe in these Spartans. Win or lose, D'Antonio has built a program. And going into any game versus Alabama, Clemson, Iowa, any of these top teams, Notre Dame, you can't disrespect Michigan State anymore. 13-point spread, give me a break. 11, I think it shook down to towards the end of the game, 11, 12, 13. You can't disrespect Michigan State anymore. What D'Antonio has done, and what now has happened, because Ohio State kind of validates you. When you beat Ohio State, it's kind of like, okay, you become a made man. You know, beating Michigan, beating the likes of, like, you know, the teams in the Big Ten, you know, Oregon, based on their results, didn't make you made. Beating Ohio State on the road, based on their level of national respect, then you got the Kirk Herbstreit saying, okay, let's put State in the top 4. So beating Ohio State, based on Urban Meyer's reputation and what he does with his programs, that gets you made. And what happens now is, Jason, Michigan State's beaten Ohio State now a couple times on the road. Now, last year, kind of that game where we got, you know, kind of ran all over at home is a little bit of an outlier. But Michigan State, it's time to have that faith in them and say, you know what, I expect them to win. Year in, year out, Cousin Adam tells me, you got to puff your chest out and believe that they're going to win. Well, now I've seen it. Going into it, I thought they were going to lose to Oregon and Ohio State. Those were the 2 losses I had them losing this year. And now you can sit here and say, you know what, whoever they bring in, next year's class, whoever the quarterback is, I expect them to be a playoff contender. And I mean, and it's time to do that. It's time to say that, you know what, Michigan State is an elite college power, and they're a team that, even if they're down 14-0 on the road, you give them a chance because they play good defense, they have a solid running game, and they play fundamentally solid football that, in the end, more often than not, is going to lead to victories, even versus teams that are in the top 5. Michigan State's at that level now, and everyone keeps bringing up the narrative, oh, it's going to end. It's going to end. Hey, it's been 5-6 years. We're still all waiting for it to end. Michigan State stock is on the rise, bro. And now I'm probably convincing myself because I'm the last to kind of know this. And, hey, I'm on board. I'm picking State to win here on out. Every single game, and I'm on board. Michigan State's a national power. Oh, yes, baby. Raw team fight. Michigan State is a national power, and it's such a joy to get great wins like that.
And, after this entire weekend, though, the way that other games have shaken out, our schedule does actually look pretty good. Going up against an Oregon who, they just beat USC. They're a two-loss team, I think. Air Force, they're a 8-3. Michigan,
it shapes out good.
We just beat an undefeated Ohio State team.
Mm-hmm.
I think
what's funny though is the defeatist, my friends of mine who like to rip on Michigan State will say, "Oh yeah, they beat Ohio State. Now watch them lose to Iowa." We've had that reputation of being up and down, but in the end, all you can do is talk about this week's game. We beat Ohio State. Now we got a chance to get to the Big Ten title game. You have to not lay an egg versus Penn State.
All we have to do is take care of business. That's all we have to do. You beat Penn State, and we truly control our own destiny. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it will feel horrible if we lose to Penn State and then
Michigan.
Basically, whoever Michigan or Ohio State wins, they get to go to the Big Ten championship. We need to take care of business this week, and then let's just say we do win against Penn State. I don't know what Iowa is. I know that they're undefeated right now, and I don't think we can really afford to look past this team.
That's what I was saying. Adam was on the WXYZ webcast earlier today, and a lot of people kind of chimed in, and they were saying, well, Iowa really hasn't played big games all that much. Michigan State's battle-tested. They've been through this before. And what Iowa is, if you watch them, they're basically a solid team in every aspect. They don't do anything overwhelmingly great. They just are, a solid team that can run and pass the ball. They play solid defense, don't make too many mistakes, and their schedule's been a little bit favorable. But you definitely need them to also, things got to kind of, for Michigan State to get into that top 4, you better make sure Iowa wins next week, and so that they stay undefeated, so that when you beat them, you get that push of beating a top echelon team.
I mean, yeah, they really haven't. Look
at the schedule.
They beat Pitt. I mean, when Pitt was kind of high up there in the beginning of the season, they barely beat them. I'm looking at their schedule. They've had a lot of close games. Yeah. Indiana 30. They only won 35-27. Minnesota 40-35. They kind of ran out the score against Purdue, but who doesn't do that against Purdue? I don't think we can overlook them, and I think Kirk Ferentz has had this Iowa team. He's had good teams before, but I think, like what you said, it's going to come down to this Michigan State team is battle tested. They've played the Oregon, they've played Michigan, they've played Ohio State now. Those are 3 gigantic games, and then you put in Connor Cook there. I think have you
checked on his injury? Is he coming back versus Penn State? They were uncertain on the webcast when I listened to it.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if I would sit him for another week.
Oh, you roll dice again.
Maybe let Tyler O'Connor do it. One more week. Give Connor Cook that time to get ready.
Now you're testing my fandom again. Oh, a backup. That's I didn't think about that. Oh, man.
I don't see Tyler O'Connor as a backup, like you said, though. I think he kind of proved that. I think he's the next guy up next year when Connor Cook is gone. I think you can I think you could start calling him Tyler O'Connor Cook.
Oh, very nice.
But I think Cook probably does everything he can to play against Penn State, and hopefully they get into a situation where they have a lead and he doesn't have to play the entire game, because I think to have any chance at a run at a college football playoff, God willing, you're going to need Connor Cook, and you're going to need pretty much everybody. You're going to need to not lose any other major key. Like when Shalik Calhoun went out for that series, I was like, oh my gosh.
Here we go.
I mean, we have a lot of people on the defensive line. It's definitely worrying, because it's a heart and soul of the team, and I loved seeing Connor Cook on the sidelines. He was very much involved in that game, and I think that's
You know, I like seeing what happened. I liked seeing Ezekiel Elliott. I liked seeing Cardell Jones, and now other people have tweeted. The young freshman, his name escapes my mind right now. He tweeted out, what choice did I make?" What happened quickly after that game kind of leads you to believe that there should be like a 24-hour rule for these kids on Twitter, because Ezekiel Elliott, Cardell Jones, the young freshman who transferred from Michigan to Ohio State, they went off on Twitter and they kind of jumped ship. And Michigan State did that. Michigan State kind of has gotten into the Ohio State program. A lot of people, a lot of the media members are saying, you know what, this Michigan State-Ohio State game is big time now. It drew a 7.0 in the ratings, the most watched college football game on any network this year. Michigan State, Ohio State, and they saw what we could do. And that field goal, I'm going to tell you, I wasn't confident.
No.
I turned it off. I couldn't do it. I didn't not watch it. I had the radio feed going, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I knew it was on an angle. I'm like, come on, honey, tell me what's going on. What's going on? Boom, he got it. I'm like, yes. And that his celebration was great. It was just an amazing experience because of how close these games are for Michigan State. And when you root that hard, sometimes I just can't watch. It's too much. And because it's the kicking game. Come on now, it's a kicking game. We're not that solid in that.
And D'Antonio truly, he has built a program, and you love to see the emotion from the guys. You heard Geiger in his post game radio interview.
I heard it.
I effing nailed it.
He effing nailed it. Yeah, and the best Blaha has to be like, well, yeah, yes he did.
Yes he did. He nailed it.
So now let's just foreshadow a little bit. Is there a chance our little Sparty hearts could be broken and devastated if we win out? Are the Big Ten champions, having defeated several top 10 teams this year, and looking up and comparing their resumes versus a team like Notre Dame? Would the committee go back on what they've said has been important to them, strength of schedule, beating good teams? Is there a chance when the final rankings come out from the committee, is there a chance Michigan State is number 5?
No, I don't believe so. I think if Michigan State runs the table, there's no shot. I could see them at 4, but I don't think there's any way that you can leave them out of this college football playoff.
You can, because you could have guys that could take Notre Dame if they win out.
Yeah, but ACC gets in, Alabama gets in if they run the table, and I believe if Notre Dame does win out, they get in, and then it's going to be the Big Ten. Because the Big Ten, I feel, has more weight than the Big 12. The Big 12 is just beating up each other, and that's their own fault. Not having a conference championship game, they're probably going to end up with a tied champion, and it's either going to be a tied champion or Oklahoma State is your top team. And I think the only team that really has a shot is Oklahoma, and even if Oklahoma finishes winning out, the wins that they finished, they played teams that had injuries. They beat TCU with not Trevon Boykin. They beat Baylor with a freshman quarterback. There's no way that Michigan State gets left out of the college football playoff.
Okay, that's what I want to hear, man. That's what I want to hear.
I know. I'll speak for Vinny, and I'll say, dude, you guys are getting left out. Michigan's gonna be in.
Yeah. What are the chances Michigan still gets in? No, I think everyone noticed now. Everyone who cheered on for Ohio State to beat Michigan State, their dreams were dashed. Now they have to hope that somehow Penn State comes into Michigan State and defeats us, but that's not going to happen. I'm confident that if Michigan State wins out and they can do so maybe in a convincing fashion more than they have, then they can get in there. But Clemson's tough. They're right now they're 11-0. Alabama is number 2 at 10-1. Ohio State now is lost. They're going to be out of the top 4, and Notre Dame with 1 loss. So,
and I'm going to take off my Sparty glasses for a second, and I'll speak for the Michigan fans. So let's just say that Michigan State loses. Michigan beats Ohio State, and then they go on to the Big Ten Championship and beat Iowa. They don't put a
2-loss Michigan team in there.
I think there's a possibility.
No, they do not do that.
I think there's a possibility.
Listen, now it is something you can talk about because of the national respect that Michigan has, but I don't think that Michigan would have enough big wins to do it. No way.
I think it'd be interesting.
A 1-loss Ohio State team is not as big as an undefeated Ohio State team.
So the thing is, though, so they will have beaten Ohio State, which, it does go down because they just lost to Michigan State. They lost. They probably should have beaten Michigan State. They will have beaten an unbeaten Iowa. They lost to Utah in the first game of the season.
I would love to see them number 5.
They started putting away teams after that Utah game. Whew. So I could see a possibility where Michigan could sneak in. I think they need a lot of help. So for Michigan, I think they still need to do what they need to do on Saturday. They need to beat Ohio State, and they're gonna have to root for Penn State this week to beat MSU and to give them a shot. And that's all I'm really giving them is a shot, because anything can really happen. I think we've seen crazier stuff happen. I mean, who did South Carolina? Didn't they just lose to the Citadel? Mm-hmm. And Florida nearly lost to Florida Atlantic. Anything can happen in college football.
And Michigan has the respect nationally. And look, you know what one of the first questions at the Harbaugh press conference today was?
I do know. It was talking about the Ohio State game.
Yeah, it was. No, it was one of the first or second questions was, has Harbaugh talked to any NFL scouts about Jake Rudock?
Rudock being an NFL quarterback, yes.
Why? Yeah, I was like, what? And the hosts on 105.1 were like, well, you got to be kidding me. I think it was Mark. It was like, let's talk about the game. Rudock's not an NFL quarterback. He's improved mightily because of Harbaugh. He's not an NFL quarterback. He's, a guy that has to actually, in this game versus Ohio State, show that he can throw a deeper ball and actually try to expose that defense, because I think Ohio State knows they can try to stop the run for Michigan and force Rudock to beat you. And if he can't, Michigan's going to struggle on offense. But he's not an NFL quarterback. But because of how the media perceives Michigan, and that's why we can give credence to your weak take that Michigan could get into the playoff.
I'm just saying there's a possibility. I'm not saying it's a done deal, but it's a possibility.
Ugh, no, absolutely. I don't want to think about that.
So just about this week, though,
yeah.
Where do you see Michigan State being in this playoff bowl?
I think they're going to come in at number 4.
Number 4?
I think so. They better.
Are you putting Iowa in the top 4 as well?
Do I think Michigan State's better than Iowa? Do they think they'll rank them higher?
I don't think you can
a lot of people
Iowa out of it.
A lot of people will say, okay, if you're going to do that, then you put State at 6. And then, or if you want to put them in, you could put them in at 3 or 4. I'm hoping that maybe they could put State in the top 4. Maybe I'm thinking with my Sparty heart, but in all realistically, I've read it's going to be between 5 and 6.
Yeah, and I'd say it's probably going to go. It'll be Bama. I think Bama takes over number 1.
Okay.
Clemson,
Notre Dame.
I think Notre Dame probably moves up to 3, and then it's going to be Iowa
4,
and then Oklahoma 5, Michigan State 6.
Okay, that's fair.
It's really this is gonna be the final test. Actually, it's the second to final test, because we still have to beat Penn State. We still have to beat Iowa.
It's close, man. We're close to our goal. If let's just fantasize. Let's just say we get to the playoff and we do win the national title. How are we celebrating? Let's put the energy out there, man. We got to go out to Lansing, you and I. Go out there, get some audio, go have some fun, watch it in East Lansing. The national title game. Oh man. The Spartans would do that. They'd win the semifinal game, prep all that, get the national hype, and get smoked in the playoff, and smoked in the final game, in the championship game.
I mean, just looking at who they'd have to play, so we'd likely either have to play Bama or Clemson. Which
I would start looking at that matchup. Whew.
Clemson, I think we could beat them. I think we can match up. I think we can match up with pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
Bama is a little bit more scarier, just because it's Alabama.
Yeah.
But I really think that D'Antonio would put this team in the best position to have a chance to win.
Okay, so before we wrap up, we'll do one question on length or girth, the best segment on this podcast. Length or girth, Michigan State's run in the playoff if we get in. Length or girth? One and done, or we get it all done, baby.
I'm just gonna go with my Spartan heart and go length.
Length, baby. All length.
There's
all day.
There's no fact behind it. It's just
maybe there's something. Maybe it's our year.
I believe in D'Antonio, and that's the only real reason that I can say length for that.
No, you could say length because you see what this team's doing. If they can perform on defense, if they can continue to have a solid running game, if that offensive line continues to block like that, and you have two running backs that can do some damage, then you have a team that is built to win it all. You build from the trenches, and you have solid talent. Now, the big question mark is, can that secondary that's been ravaged by injury continue to hold teams like a Clemson or an Alabama? Because they'll know. They already know what to do. Basically, they have their plays set for Michigan State. They know. The scouting department, whoever the 2 or 3 scouts are that are assigned to Michigan State, that work with Alabama and Clemson, they know. Target the secondary. Target the secondary. And I don't know, the weather in Ohio State. Urban Meyer didn't know that, but these national teams, they know. They know for sure.
Just thinking about a little bit more in my head, I actually don't mind the matchup against Alabama because
Ohio State beat them, right? Yeah.
Well, I think you look at what they are, and they're a running team. They have Derrick Henry.
Yep.
And Derrick Henry is a Heisman candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel Elliott is a Heisman candidate. Why couldn't we stop Derrick Henry?
Yes,
you'd have to force, who is it, their quarterback Coker to beat us. Which, we've made lesser quarterbacks look like amazing. But I think anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Length, baby. Oh man, it's been a fun podcast.
Yeah, time flew. We covered it all with Michigan State, just a smidge of Michigan, and of course some Lions talk. We didn't really get to. There really isn't a whole lot of news with Pistons. It's all Pistons, Red Wings. It's kind of status quo.
Wait and see. Yeah, wait and see.
It's early in the season.
Wait and see.
And we'll definitely talk more about that once football's all over.
Yeah.
And we might do something special for hockey. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Motor City Sports Rant.
I want to thank the Detroit Sports Nation, DetroitSportsNation.com. They host each and every podcast. They're a big support. I recently met the owner of the website. I've known Jeff Bilbrey for a long time, but I met Mr. Mancini at a restaurant, one that he owns, and he's a very nice guy. Supports the project a lot, and he's like, anything you guys need, man, we're happy to have you. So
yes, they are a very good website. They're the first place that I saw the Ezekiel Elliott comments.
Yes, sir. DetroitSportsNation.com. Great website, great writers.
But yeah, for John Macaroon, I am Jason Jarvie, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, nice, idiot. You. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.